Hey everyone, today I want to talk about Reddit. Well, kind of tangentially, I guess. The more specific focus is more like maybe you've seen some bits and pieces of Place, whether it be flags having pixel wars, or Canada's struggle session, or just seeing a massive YouTuber talking about it. You may have also participated, either in the 2017 version, the 2022 version, or the most recent 2023 version of Place. There's plenty of coverage of all of those topics already, so I won't retread all of that old ground. Instead, this video will outline a story that has never been covered before, so even if you're very familiar with Place, at the very least, you'll get to see Place from the perspective of our smaller community. If you've never heard of or seen r/Place before, that's fine. I'll get into some detail about it first so you can follow what's happening later on. So, for context, briefly, what is Place? As I mentioned earlier, Place began in 2017 after a guy called Josh Wardle brought an idea to Reddit. Yes, the same Josh Wardle who made the game Wordle, which plagued Twitter for about half a year and still occasionally finds its way into regular pop culture. Anyways, the idea he brought to Reddit was this. What if we let the entirety of Reddit make a piece of art on the same canvas? Each player would be given one pixel to place, and could use it to draw with their friends or completely overwrite someone else's pixel. This idea was so successful in 2017, reaching over 1 million players over the course of the experiment, that Reddit brought it back for 2022, which is where our story takes place. So, in summary, Place is basically a community art piece. Since people can overwrite the pixels that you place, to make anything that sticks on the board, you have to band together with a sizable community and fight for your space on Place. Since the 2022 version of Place is the focus for this video, let me quickly run through some of the specifics to know about this version of Place. To start, the canvas is 1000 by 1000 pixels, making it 1 million pixels total that people can edit. This was also the canvas size in 2017, so that's not very surprising. Next, you can pick one of 16 colors and place one pixel anywhere on the canvas every 5 minutes. Well, unless you were a Reddit admin. You can see who placed pixels by tapping on a pixel, and after looking at a bunch of pixels that appeared in rapid succession, people realized that a mod was bypassing the 5-minute cooldown, which is basically cheating. They claimed it was to keep the canvas safe, except the art that they were caught doing this to was a cat. Not sure what that cat was up to, but whatever you say, Reddit. Anyways, the only other thing to note, which I mentioned earlier, was that there were two things to really do in Place: create art or destroy it. I think within these two functions, we can describe the 4 major types of players and communities on Place. The first type of community is a flag community. Usually these communities focus on a country's flag or a pride flag and include small pieces of artwork within their borders. It can be somewhat difficult to work with these communities since the art that they will allow on their flag usually has to be themed appropriately. These communities were also very likely to expand their borders when given the opportunity. The next major type of community is the streaming community. Primarily on Twitch and YouTube, there were massive streamers who live streamed the canvas in order to get their audience to build or destroy artwork for them. Due to having thousands of people engaged in a small area, these streamer communities had an easy time overtaking other communities and building their own art. The trouble these communities usually had was in defending their art or destruction, since when they went offline for the day, the audience would lose interest in defending the art. This basically meant that after a streamer left an area alone, all of the art that was around before the streamer invaded would be back after the audience stopped defending the art. A popular streamer, XQC, said that taking over other people's artwork would give new art pieces and communities a chance to get on the canvas.
These teardowns you're doing also give other artists chances to put new art there, that was otherwise stuck there by literal bots and spam.
Yeah, every time we black something out, people take over. People build other shit. Dude, look at the Kobe. People are rebuilding. Guys, there's dozens of new communities that are going in there. Look, the Oilers, the whatever the fuck.
I showed the images from before, but you can see this part of the canvas before the Kobe Bryant art went up, and here it is while the art was up, and here's the canvas after. Here's some text to the before and after images to help you guys keep track of the communities that were all there before and after XQC took the space over. It's almost identical. So yeah, unless people at large really wanted the streamer art piece to stay, the people who originally occupied those spaces were usually around to take them back. The next type of player is the bot. They didn't belong to any particular community per se, but their use was prevalent enough to be noteworthy. Since you could check the accounts of any player who placed pixels down, lots of people noticed accounts that were made during the place event with default names that were being used to quickly repair griefing. One could chalk this up to there just being a lot of people new to Reddit who wanted to participate in place, but considering the prevalence of r/place bots on GitHub, I'd say it's more likely many of these accounts were bots. In general, bots were a very powerful tool to use if you had art to defend. The last type of community was what my community, the Snakebot, was, an organically grown community. Some organically grown communities utilize some of the other 3 types of players to bolster their numbers. Others, like the Snakebot, did not. Organically grown communities are only as strong as their communities are large and their alliances are strong. If everyone nearby is out to get your community, it's probably not going to end well. Likewise, if your community is small, it'd be hard to get an art piece on the canvas in the first place. But I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here. I think you guys should be pretty caught up on how place works, so we're pretty much ready to get into the specifics of the events of place as it pertains to the Snakebot. I've mentioned the Snakebot a couple of times previously, so if you're unfamiliar, all you really need to know is that when I refer to the Snakebot, I'm just talking about a community that formed around playing Snake through a bot on Twitter that was created by YouTuber Polymars. If you're at all interested in the backstory on how that community formed or how we crushed this bot, I made a couple of videos about it, so feel free to check those out if you want more context. With that out of the way, let's jump into the events of r/place 2022. So, it's April Fool's Day, and I'm running my gimmick account on Twitter like any other day. Oh yeah, in case you didn't know, I run a gimmick account on Twitter where I follow someone every day. I made a video about that too if you want to know more about that. So anyways, as I'm scrolling through my feed that day, I noticed a lot of people in the Geometry Dash community talking about r/place. I had heard of the one that happened 5 years prior, but it seems that a new game was afoot, and the GD Twitter community wanted to be front and center. Together, they quickly organized to create a memorial tribute for one of their top players that had tragically passed away due to illness. Now, I've played a little bit of Geometry Dash before, so I figured I'd help out with this project. So I re-downloaded the Reddit app on my phone and spent some time that day helping maintain their memorial. Did I click on the wrong video? I could have sworn this was about a flushed emoji or Snakebot thing, not Geometry Dash. I hear you. My engagement with the Snakebot side of this saga wouldn't start for a little while, but I just wanted to highlight the fact that a lot of us who ended up banding together eventually started playing on r/place largely independent from one another. For the entire first day, I was casually defending a Geometry Dash memorial, and there were others on place to work on other projects.
I think I knew about place sort of vaguely, I saw some Reddit posts about it, but I didn't really care. And then the thing that actually led me to see the canvas was I noticed my Reddit app was all pixelated or whatever, and I thought it was a glitch. So I googled why does my Reddit app look pixelated, and I thought it was the marketing thing for place. I'm oh, it must be a big deal then.
So if I wasn't there for the start of the Snakebot on place, then how did it get started? To answer that, we need to return to somewhere pretty familiar for the channel. The Snakebot Discord. I've already talked about the Discord and how it formed in my videos about the Twitter Place Snakebot, but I think the only thing you really need to know about the Discord at this point is that the community is still fairly active in the Discord, and now that Place has started, some of the members of the Discord started expressing a desire to do something on Place relating to the Snakebot. In these moments, it's just a handful of members on the Discord with a dream. This handful of members decide to give it a shot at least, and draw up some pixel art of the flushed emoji from the Snakebot that they were going to use to put something on the canvas. This is the spot that the Discord eventually settled on, and it was a hotbed for activity. Over here on the left side is the flag of Armenia, and on the right side is, well, a mess. Lots of communities were fighting for this spot over here, but as you'll see, one community started taking over that area the most, the Snakebot. You can see the flushed emoji starting to emerge from that mess there, but just as quickly as the Discord started to take that spot, the spot was claimed by Armenia. So, what happened? Well, I have two suspicions. Firstly, the Reddit page for Armenia had posts talking about our art and how it was invading their land. Hopefully it's obvious, but the people trying to expand into Armenia's territory weren't a part of the flushed emoji. Attacking us when we didn't provoke is kinda BM, but this gets into my other suspicion. Armenia is a flag community. Well, okay, I didn't suspect that this was the Armenian flag, I know it is, but if you'll recall my earlier summary of each community type, the flag communities were notoriously hard to work with because of the art that they'd accept within their borders, usually having to be themed. Given this understanding, here's my guess for why Armenia attacked us. First, people surrounding our art attacked them, and second, our art wasn't themed around Armenia. Okay, so the emoji was half constructed and wiped out from the canvas after an hour. Is that really worth making a video about? Well, no. It wouldn't be if that's where things ended. I think it'd make a neat story for those that participated in that, but things are about to pick up, so get ready. Alright, so day 1 comes to a close, and now it's day 2, and this new day on place comes with a twist. A canvas expansion. Remember how the board was 1000 by 1000 pixels on day 1? Well, now it's 1000 by 2000 pixels. The original canvas is still there like it was before, but now there's this expansive blank canvas just asking for new art to appear on it. The Snakebot Discord immediately noticed this, and after nearly completing the emoji on day 1, they're even more determined than ever to succeed. So they organized more members in the Discord and even set up a separate r/place thread so they could keep all of our organization and strategy in one place. The Discord settled on a location near the Moonlord, which is an art piece being protected by the Terraria community and the popular streamer Sodapoppin'. We also set up near the communities for the University of California and streamer Murder Crumpet. We'll need to get back to Murder Crumpet later, since he actually becomes a bit more relevant later on. With the increased number of people helping to put the flushed emoji on the canvas, our community manages to easily complete the emoji. And for some people, that's all they might care about. But like many other communities, now that we have a spot, this is where we make a transition into defense. Oh yeah, this was also right around the time I actually noticed the snake on place. I made the decision to leave the memorial behind and work on defending the flushed emoji. That's because the memorial was already guarded by a large community, and they had a lot of alliances with their neighbors. The flushed emoji, on the other hand, was being protected by a small but dedicated community. Maybe it's just due to how much I influenced the games of Snake on Twitter, but I felt like this would be another opportunity for me to directly influence the course of events for us. By this point, many of the most dedicated players from the Twitter Plays Snakebot were already playing on Place to defend the flushed emoji, and I decided to do a little recruiting. I noticed that Polymars, the creator of the Snakebot, was attempting to organize people from his Discord to build his logo on Place. It was at this point that I mentioned that the flushed emoji was already on the canvas, and now we had Polymars and some members from his community joining up with us.
It was funny because one of my friends actually, this was before I even knew that the Twitter Play Snake people were doing anything, but he actually messaged me saying hey, you should make a tweet from the Snake account and try to get a flush emoji on the board. And I'm like, oh yeah, that would be perfect, because I feel Place and the Snake bot have a very similar appeal. I feel like they would probably be the kinds of people to also Place.
At this point, we're playing defense well. Situating ourselves near the giant Moonlord art meant that it'd be harder for larger communities to target us since there's less space to take. Unfortunately, smaller to mid-sized communities did not have this same issue, since the art they were aiming to create would be smaller anyways. This is how we ended up randomly finding ourselves with what we initially thought was a frog hat. In reality, we were being targeted by a community adjacent to Murder Crumpet, which in case you forgot, is this guy right here. The community targeting us was that of Rafflegator, and the frog hat was actually this emote of theirs. Rafflegator was connected to Murder Crumpet via a VR chat community known as the Golden Gator, which Rafflegator is the founder of. That broader community was connected to some larger streamers participating in the event, but I'll explain more of that as it gets more relevant. For now, all you need to know is that these two communities that seemed separate to us in the moment are actually the same community. So it should come as no surprise that when we talked with Rafflegator's community, they were not super receptive to moving somewhere else. Well, actually it's a bit complicated since Rafflegator's Discord leadership wanted to work with us, but the broader community, which was out of their control, was pretty toxic, which made it hard for us to actually work with them. But yeah, eventually we ended up striking a deal with the Rafflegator Discord community to help take over the crown to the north of us here.
There were back and forth talks and hey, what can we do to stay on the map? And not have to worry about us just getting wiped out for no reason. So we had agreed that we'd take the spot right above the Gators, which happened to be right into the crown and that we ended up getting a no later down the line.
This crown art is from a community called Miner, and they will be incredibly relevant later on, but for now, they're just another piece of art for us to take over so we can stay on the board. So now our position is a little bit more precarious. To our north is a streamer from the Golden Gator, and to our south is a streamer from the Golden Gator. They were so close together, but being separated by just our art, it's not hard to see the tension that they'd naturally have with us, even if we didn't see it yet. I also want to point out that around this time, we were almost completely wiped off the map because of XQC. Basically, he was doing a stream where he would blot out a purple art piece with all purple pixels, then he'd do the same to another purple art piece, and then he'd have his community connect them with a line of purple pixels. I'm not super great with angles here, but if I put this straight line down on this screenshot and rotate it a little, I can't help but notice we're right in the way. Thankfully, he got distracted by trying to destroy the Star Wars art, so we survive a little longer. So now we move on to the part of day 2 that I had to do way too much research on in order to understand what even happened. I've kind of set up the explanation earlier, but it goes a bit deeper than you might be expecting. To start with, I went to bed expecting us to move into day 3 on a good note. We even had a few defenders, and we had been defending pretty good since moving on to Miner's spot. Even so, if I were around, I think the next series of events would have unfolded the same way. The short version is that overnight, we're taken over by this pixel art. So, who is that?
It was early in the morning. I wasn't awake, so I had only found this out like hours after the fact. Another community, allies with the Gators, and the Crump community, also in the network obviously, all VR chat streamers and, the sort. And another member of their network had ended up taking our spot.
Looking at the post history of the Reddit accounts that added pixels, we discovered that they are a part of a community adjacent to the Golden Gator. This particular streamer is called Laser Shield, so surface level it just looks like the Golden Gator community wants to take over that area, which, yeah, they did, but that led me to another question. Why them? Like, Murder Crumpet and Rafflegator are pretty big streamers, but looking at Laser Shield's Twitter presence, I've got more followers on my gimmick. Not to mention, we have a bigger name on our side, Polymars. This made me think, is Laser Shield just really good at coordinating? So I checked their subreddit, and it's dead. Okay, well, Reddit isn't the only place to coordinate. After all, we've been coordinating on Discord this whole time. So we have some members join their Discord and, oh, look at that, banned. So yeah, we discovered that her operation wasn't big on its own, but hey, she had the backing of the Golden Gator, so that counts for something, right? Well, kind of. Personally, I'd find it pretty difficult to believe that they could spread their numbers to not only defend their existing art, but then go on to create a whole new piece to defend. And so I dug a little more. And what do you know? There is a reason why Laser Shield would have the push to take that spot, and it does connect to the Golden Gator. There's one other streamer that now needs to be introduced, Mizkif. On his own, he was a massive streamer, capable of changing the board in a big way due to him having tens of thousands of people watching him live. In fact, his streams during the 2022 Place event are still the largest streams he's ever done. So, needless to say, aligning yourself with his community would be pretty beneficial. So imagine my surprise learning that Mizkif has been on the Golden Gator VR chat server before. Not only that, he got someone assigned to entertain him while he was there, a then unknown streamer called Laser Shield. And also, as a quick tangent, this is how I discovered that there's this weird subculture to VR chat called mutes, which are people that don't use their mic and there's like ownership dynamics between them and mic'd people. It's a whole other can of worms, but yeah, like I said earlier, I looked a lot into this stuff because genuinely, it was really confusing seeing a streamer with no following taking us over when we had Polly there to back us up. I also want to add a small epilogue to this section to note that Mizkif, Rafflegator, and Murder Crumpet have all noticeably declined in viewership since 2022's Place event, and Laser Shield kinda fell off the face of the earth. Actually, a month after Place, Mizkif dropped Laser Shield as his assigned mute. I don't say any of this to put these creators down, since I think it'd be great if their viewership came back, but more so to say that their dominance over place was something that could only have happened because they were at the right place at the right time. I know this video is about the Snakebot and its journey on place, but I promise that continuing to focus on the Golden Gator, even after we're gone, will tie in with our journey. So let's rewind a little to when we're getting taken over. To the left here, you might recognize someone familiar, Miner. They actually managed to nab a spot near where they were taken over, which is good for them. Unfortunately, another larger threat loomed in the distance, GG Games. He'd been taking a lot of territory in the area, and so not long after coming back, this happens. The Golden Gator community eventually resettled onto the original 1000 by 1000 board, but more importantly, Miner was now a homeless community. We'll keep that in mind as things progress. But first, let's get back to the snake. It's now day 3 of place, and we need to find a new home now that we've lost our first spot. There's been a board expansion, and Polymars decides that on his own he'll make his way to the new board. He actually gets into a fight with an axolotl, which puts him in a stalemate. For the snake's new spot, let's redirect our attention to this part of the board at the edge. This is Snake from Metal Gear Solid. And now here is that part of the board getting hit by a crypto coin community. It was at this point when we were recovering that we had an idea. Why not just use the large amount of yellow already here to build ourselves up? Their art wasn't fully recovered anyways, so it's not like they had a full claim to that area. And so our war as a snake against Snake from Metal Gear Solid began. The funny thing is that their defense was pretty weak, and if we kept pushing, we'd be able to take them over, much to the dismay of their community. That's when someone reached out to us, a representative from the Miner community.
We were kind of conflicting with the flushed emoji below us a little bit to start, I think, and the one above us, but it was like, hey, I'm comfortable joining these discords and talking it out with them. Why don't I just go find them? And the day that Crown got destroyed, I think one of our server members found a Reddit post finding their Discord, so Gemuse and I, the one who was working with me, we found their Discord, and we just kind of talked things out with them, like, hey, we'll help you guys rebuild and find a new spot or whatever, and I guess that just kind of worked out like that.
With this offer to rebuild from Miner, we decided to leave Metal Gear's Snake alone. So yeah, now Snakebot was working with Miner on the newest and final expansion of the board. So now that we're working with Miner, I'll quickly explain who they are other than the people we stole the land of on day 2. Basically, they are a popular Minecraft parkour community. The skill level of these guys are on another level. Jumps in the game I'd find difficult, like the famous double Neo, or like introductory for them. Like, here's a Neo that someone in their community did, except there's a player head that they jump entirely around. In the hardcore Minecraft parkour scene, Miner is a huge pioneer, so that's who we struck a deal with. Our communities create a reference sheet for both of our art pieces, and we decide to start by building Miner's crown. Before we can build it though, we'd need to find a spot to rebuild. Much like the Day 2 expansion, we thought that being near a large art piece would be helpful in protecting us. Unlike Day 2, we managed to find a location between 2 large art pieces, the Notre Dame to the right, and a memorial to Total Biscuit on the left. As long as they maintained their art pieces, we wouldn't have to worry about a large community taking us over since there wasn't much room between the two. Foreshadowing is a narrative device. Oh, okay. So, anyways, we decide to set up camp along this strip between the F Cars Road and the Total Biscuit Memorial. As we are early to this area, we don't have much trouble putting up Miner's crown. Halfway into building the Snakebot though, we notice we have competition. After checking out the Reddit accounts of the people placing pixels to our south, we find out that this blue belongs to the Dallas Cowboys subreddit. Initially, I thought this was going to be a large fight, seeing as they were a pretty popular NFL team and all, but with Miner and our alliance pushing against them, we managed to get the Snakebot set up. In fact, with all of the damage we did to their defense, they were overwhelmed by the University of Glasgow and were removed from the strip entirely. But now that we've been situated, an old friend wanted to rejoin our efforts. Polymars. He still wasn't winning that territory against the axolotl, so he figured he'd come hang out and see if he could build his art right by us. We were defending pretty well along with Miner, so we all agreed to help his Discord out with building his art right by us. Look at him, he's just so tiny and cute. More than that though, Polly's art piece was significant in another way, in that it broke the highway, which was pretty challenging to do since it was maintained by a large community. My guess is that the third expansion ended up spreading their numbers too thin, so they were okay with losing that territory so they could concentrate their efforts on the original canvas. But yeah, Polly ended up taking that territory, and after he did, lots of other smaller communities did too. In fact, Polly ended up enlarging his art, so now it was closer to our art's size. Now that we were all set up, it was defense time. Well, okay, we've been defending the whole time, but now we don't have new art to set up, so it's a little easier for us to defend ourselves. On a quick side tangent about defense, we ended up getting a lot of people griefing the eyes since it only took one person to change an eye's color. We also were hit by a YouTuber's community quite a bit, Jack Manifold. Thanks, Jack. Anyways, Polymars had a great idea to help us get more defenders. Twitter! If he could figure out the login for the Twitter Plays Snake account, he could advertise there. He actually offered this back when we started working with Miner, but now that we were all there, it was time to get to work. It took a while, but eventually he found his login info. In my interview with him, he leaked that login info, so if you see the Snakebot return, you know why. Just kidding. Well, about the fact that I'd log in and mess with things, he did actually leak his login info to me.
And the email was like...
That aside, Polly ends up tweeting on the Snake account urging people to help with the pixel art defense. The tweet was deleted before I could screenshot it, but I do have a little evidence that it existed. Here's a Discord message that directly linked the tweet, and another one showing that the text of the tweet was the snake with a color palette and a paintbrush. The image was just a screenshot of the current state of things, which I'm showing now. There was also some text below that said what our coordinates were so people who saw the tweet could help us out.
I was surprised to see the announcement go out. I wasn't too terribly surprised to see the reaction to it, and there were quite a few people who had joined from the announcement. What all? None of them really talked.
With this, we ended up getting more defenders helping us out. From here, it was smooth sailing into day 4. So, welcome to day 4. We're now mere hours away from the end of the event. We didn't know that at the time, since the time the event ended wasn't announced, but we did know it would be the final day. As far as we knew though, it could end at any moment, which was kind of scary. Speaking of scary, we started to notice that Miner was under attack. Well, okay, it wasn't a huge attack or anything, but Miner's art was under way less threat than us normally, so this raised a red flag for us. By checking the Reddit accounts of those placing the attacking pixels, we noticed a couple of accounts of note. One was NodiTV, and the other was V_Whitepot. No matter how much digging we did on the NodiTV Reddit account, we kept coming up empty, so that's when we switched our focus to the Whitepot account. This account had a linked Twitter account, @Whitepot. Checking their account, I was able to piece it all together. They had been working with a small Twitch streamer, NodiTV, so that both of them could get on Place. See this purple art up here? It's literally Whitepot's logo. So, I decided to try and set up negotiations with Whitepot. After all, our alliance is already much larger than NodiTV, who at the time had no presence whatsoever. Whitepot joined our Discord, and after some talking, we decided we'll all work together, which included us defending Whitepot's logo from the Space Program X pixel art encroaching on their territory. After being attacked like this, Miner, Whitepot, Polly, and the Snakebot Discord all agreed that bringing in as many allies on this last day as we could would be valuable. We all believed we should try and help each other so that we could make it to the final board. So, we double our efforts joining other communities' discords, negotiating peace, and defending each other. We managed to recruit a lot of the nearby communities, including the University of Glasgow that I mentioned before. There is a point where Polly has to move since an outside community managed to take his art over, but we were able to bring him back without much issue. We are now a pretty decent defense, and it would take a lot for us to not make the finish. Foreshadowing is a narrative. Okay. What happens next is going to require me to explain a little bit of what's been happening on Place more broadly. If we rewind the tape a little, you'll notice that the Total Biscuit Memorial started out with a solid purple background, which was defended heavily by invested people. Then, as things progressed, little Among Us crewmates popped up in the background. This was evidence of the fact that defense on this background was weakening. Going into day 4, some of this background was replaced by the art of small communities. These communities would defend their pieces, but not nearly as ardently as the people who initially created the memorial. This meant that even though we are near a large art piece, we are no longer afforded the same level of protection that we were when we settled in here. Ordinarily, this wouldn't be an issue, but another domino fell nearby, causing this weakness to become a huge issue. Here's a Twitch streamer named Elrain. He is Turkish. He also was one of the largest streamers participating in Place. He is about to inadvertently blow our position up. But wait, you might be saying, he's not drawing any art over you. How could he be blowing your position up? Well, he's about to kick a hornet's nest called the Void. The Void is a community that existed in the first edition of Place, so naturally they'd be a pretty big faction this time as well.
I don't know, there's just something that's attacking the map every once in a while, and like a game of hide and seek, you try to run from it, but you really can't. And you've just got to always, it kind of keeps you on your toes, so I guess it just kept things interesting.
Unfortunately for them, Elrain had a community far larger than them, so when he decided to build on top of them, they had no choice but to relocate. But where to relocate, I wonder?
I'm in danger!
With the weakness of the community's near Total Biscuits memorial that I mentioned before, the Void was easily able to escape to the north. Of course, this didn't leave them a ton of room, so they were going to try and move east, straight into us. Now, here's the thing. We have a pretty solid defense, but by the numbers alone, we were way outgunned. Because of this, the flushed emoji, which coincidentally was their first target, was blacked out by the Void. Like I said though, we had a pretty solid defense. We had a lot of nearby alliances, so once we started going down, we made a pretty good comeback considering the numbers were not in our favor. Unfortunately for us, our comeback was short-lived. You see, the Void was still split, partially trying to fight Elrain for their spot back, and partially trying to fight for more space up north. Once they'd given up their fight for their old spot, they doubled their efforts into taking our spot.
I wasn't worried about my thing at first, but I was trying to help with my multiple Reddit accounts. I was trying to just help the flush emoji because I kind of thought it would stop there. So I'm like, dang, that is tough. But I thought I might be in the clear because it seemed like that was where it was ending. But then it got to the point where the flush emoji was just completely black. There is no remnants of it.
One by one, we were blotted out. Not long after, another disaster struck us. The only color people could place was white. The game was over. The canvas soon turned to white, and with that, r/place 2022 came to a close. So, yeah, that's the gist of our journey on Place. There's still a bit I want to talk about though, so don't touch that dial. Firstly, I want to talk about what we would have done if we had more time. Like I said, nobody knew when Place was going to end, so it was pretty bad luck that we ended up consumed by the Void when we did. I think if we had a little more time, we would have gone and set up camp over by the Memorial to Rectful. This was another newer spot where smaller art communities were encouraged to set up. I think it being so new would help us get some defense from larger communities. But yeah, we didn't really have the time to do any of that. I think we all had the tenacity needed to get on the board again, but we were just unlucky with our timing. In a way, this reminds me a lot of the first time playing the Snake bot on Twitter. The first game after Polymars added tie leniency, we ended up having a great run up until a surge of likely botted interactions ended up killing that run. Back then, we were also close to victory, only to lose right at the finish line. We did end up revisiting the Snake bot and beating it, so who knows what's in the future. Place 2023 came and went with no participation from the Discord, but maybe if a future event takes place, we'll band together again and come out stronger than ever. Or maybe something crazy will happen and you, my viewers, will be at the forefront of that. Whatever the case may be, I definitely want to be there on the front lines and documenting the whole thing. Even if we didn't win, I think that all too often we get lost in the idea of needing certain outcomes or we won't be satisfied. Well, for me, the journey was so much more fun than whether or not I was on the final canvas.
I didn't really care too much about the result of r/place, but as someone who doesn't really use Reddit, I use Discord a lot just for gaming purposes or whatever, but it was a lot of fun being able to work with the community. I guess just growing bonds with people in the community who I guess I never really talked to much, so it really was the friends we made along the way.
And that really reflects how I feel about my own journey through Place. Throughout the journey, I met the minor community. I had been able to hang out with the Snake Discord working on a project like this again. I was able to speak with Polymars, and I was able to make a cool video documenting the whole thing. Comparatively, making it into the final canvas just gives me something to point to at the end of it to say I was there. Regardless though, I was there. If you watch a time-lapse of r/place 2022 on loop, pause anywhere, and we'll probably be somewhere on the canvas. That's pretty impressive on its own. And because we were always there, and because I had so much fun, I wanted to share this with you guys. The last thought I'll leave you guys with related to the game will be my thoughts on the Void being the ones to do us in. Personally, I think this was the best way to go. If a smaller community took us over, then it would make the highly strategic Snakebot community look pretty bad. On the other hand, if a streamer took us over, then it would be way too abrupt. A large natural community taking us over, on the other hand, could deal the final blow to us in a way that was both fair and interesting, especially since we almost came back for a little bit.
But I'm glad it was the Void versus like a singular like streamer or something, just like targeting their audience toward like whatever they want to do.
And with that, I'll end the discussion of Snakebot on Place here. I've got a lot of content on the horizon, including one that'll be discussing the background to a couple of seemingly random videos on my channel, but you'll just have to wait for that one. Well, hopefully not too long. Anyways, please leave a like or a comment, and remember to subscribe. I know most of you aren't, but that's all for now. Take care.
That's it. I am no longer a Snake player. I've been a fan since it started and have followed since Pisces. I officially will not be liking or retweeting ever again. I'm going to play Galago where I can rely on myself.